Your generosity fuels all of Westside's efforts to make disciples, equip families, and share Christ's love here and around the world. Thank you.
So in 2007, a movement and a legacy, this whole thing started in the heart of Westside, a vision to care for hundreds of the world's most vulnerable children through sponsorship. Now, One Life cares for almost 1,000 children in 24 orphan care centers. And over the last few years, that vision and movement has grown larger. Now in the areas where we have orphan care centers, we're launching movements of church plants with a heart for the spiritual and the physical orphan. This movement is expanding our capacity so we can care for thousands of orphans. In just the last 2 years, we've established church planter training hubs in India, South Africa, Thailand, and Laos. Now, how did all this happen with church planting? Well, it started with Casey in 2012.
The whole South African story and how it connects with Westside actually began with a heart for the orphans in South Africa. One Life has been a very influential program and ministry strategically with kids who are underprivileged and not only spiritually orphaned, but literally physically orphaned. And so Westside had this passion for South Africa and specifically the orphan children.
We planted a beachhead, Westside Port Elizabeth, in the same country where the whole story started with orphan care.
Pastor Dan Sutherland in 2011, and he said, "Casey, I want to ask you a question. What do you think about going to South Africa to start a church?" To which I replied, "I appreciate it, but no." Because there are two things I said I'd never do. One, I will never plant a church. And two, I will never be a missionary. But God had a different plan. So in praying about it and heard without a shadow of a doubt, God saying, "I want you to go to South Africa."
Then later, that same year, we did one initial gathering of church planters around our orphan care centers in Thailand, which over the next 3 years sparked a small and reproducing church planting movement that expanded to about 70 churches spilling over the border into Laos. And then we thought, wow, what if we got intentional with this? So in 2015, we did 5 quarterly church planter trainings, which further expanded the movement into Myanmar, growing into 140 churches. And we learned a lot that year. And we thought, what if we try this in South Africa and India too? So in 2016, we started a small and reproducing church planting movement in South Africa with quarterly church planter trainings.
Our Westside Family Church in Port Elizabeth has become a seed that is germinating new expressions of kingdom ministry expressed in home churches.
And already we have 17 small group churches with 67 people gathering every week. Earlier this year, Westside Port Elizabeth has transitioned to its own independent congregation as we focus on what's really working globally, a small and reproducing church movement. And this year in India, we just finished our first session of church planter training with already over 300 baptisms and 57 new churches. And dude, they're just getting started. And while that's going on in Thailand and Laos and Myanmar, we're building out from not just one, but 4 regional church planting networks that are now doing church planter trainings in country and also coordinating with other church planter networks to reach every village for Jesus.
But the neat thing is, as we move toward house churches, God is blowing up what we could have done in one location. And now that we are spreading this out and multiplying this out to the many different locations and with the different ministry partners through pastors that we're training, we're seeing more people find Jesus than we ever would have in one small location where people would just be able to come and gather.
The combined church attendance every week of all our global sites is over 4,500. To put that in perspective, that's more than Westside Lenexa. We get, and I mean we as all of us, through your generosity, we get to have a part in making a serious dent in the Great Commission all around the world. Jesus is building his church, and it's awesome.
Thank you so much
for come to training us.
I'm really inspired by this training.
You you helped make these blessings possible through your faithful giving. Thank you.